The basement was sketchy as hell. It smelled like wet concrete, old cardboard, and something else, something metallic, like a bag of rusty nails. Jax wiped the sweat from his forehead, his flashlight beam cutting through the thick dust of his late grandfather's house in rural Oregon. "Yo, Jax, seriously, this place is a straight-up death trap," Leo muttered, his voice echoing off the damp walls. He was hovering near the stairs, looking like he wanted to bolt. "Your granddad was a hoarder, man. Let's just call the junk removal guys and get a beer." "Just 5 more minutes, Leo," Jax grunted, kicking aside a stack of yellowed newspapers from the 80s. "Gramps told me there was an old safe down here. If there's cash, we're splitting it." Jax shoved a heavy wooden wardrobe aside. Behind it wasn't a safe. It was a false wall made of cheap plywood. With a hard tug, the wood splintered, revealing a crawlspace. Jax crawled in, the air turning ice cold. His flashlight hit a stack of files. On top of them was a plastic sleeve. Inside was a flyer, a missing poster. Jax froze. His heart didn't just skip a beat, it felt like it stopped entirely. The photo on the poster was grainy, a 90s-style Polaroid scan. It showed a 5-year-old boy with messy blonde hair and a very distinct, jagged scar across his left eyebrow, the exact same scar Jax got when he fell off his bike 3 years ago. At the top, in bold, black letters, "Missing, Jackson Miller." At the bottom, the date, October 12, 1994. Jax felt the blood drain from his face. "No cap. Leo, get over here. Now." Leo scrambled in, breathing hard. He looked at the poster, then at Jax, then back at the poster. "Mate. That's a joke, right? You're tripping. You were born in 2002. This says 1994. That's literally your face, bro." "It's not just the face, Leo," Jax whispered, his voice cracking. "Look at the scar. I got this scar in 2021. How is it on a kid in 1994? They didn't leave. They couldn't. The mystery was a lure, and they were already hooked." Jax began tearing into the files in the crawlspace. There were medical records, school reports, and hair samples, all labeled, "Subject, Jackson." "Check this out," Leo said, his hands shaking as he held up a cassette tape labeled, "Session 4, The Integration." They found an old boombox on a workbench and shoved the tape in. The hiss of static filled the basement, followed by the heavy, labored breathing of the grandfather. "The first Jackson is gone," the old man's voice rasped, sounding haunted. "The woods took him in 94. But the house doesn't like being empty. It brought him back, or something that looks like him. I found him on the porch this morning. Same scar, same eyes, but he doesn't remember the 94 incident. He thinks it's 2002. I have to keep the posters hidden. If he sees them, the loop breaks. If the loop breaks, he unravels." Jax and Leo exchanged a look of pure terror. "He's talking about you, man," Leo whispered, backing away. "This is some glitch in the Matrix type shit. You're not even real, are you?" "Shut up, Leo, I'm right here, touch my hand, I'm solid," Jax yelled, but his own voice sounded hollow to his ears. Suddenly, the basement lights flickered and died. The only light came from the flashlight on the floor, pointing directly at the crawlspace. Thump, thump, thump. The sound was coming from behind the wall. Something was moving in the foundations of the house. "Did you hear that?" Leo gripped Jax's shoulder, his knuckles white. "There's someone else down here, bro. We gotta bounce. Now." "Wait," Jax whispered. He walked toward the back of the crawlspace. There was a small, heavy iron door he hadn't noticed before. It was bolted from the outside. Jax reached for the bolt. "Don't do it, Jax. It's dodgy as hell, man," Leo shouted. Jax ignored him. He slid the bolt back and kicked the door open. The smell that hit them was unbearable, like ancient dust and stagnant air. Jax shone the light inside. It was a small, padded room. In the corner sat a man. He was old, maybe in his late 60s, with a long, matted white beard. He was wearing the same red and blue striped t-shirt the boy in the 1994 poster was wearing. The man turned his head slowly. His eyes were milky with cataracts, but across his left eyebrow was a jagged, silver scar. "Grandpa?" the old man croaked, his voice sounding like grinding stones. "Is it 1995 yet? Did the search party leave?" Jax felt his knees give out. He was looking at himself. Not a ghost, not a spirit, but the original Jackson Miller, who had been locked in this hole since 1994. If you're him, Jack stammered, looking at his own youthful hands. Then what the hell am I? The old man in the cell began to laugh, a dry, hacking sound. You're the shadow. The house made you so Grandpa wouldn't go to jail. Every time I get too old, the house makes a new one. A fresh Jackson, to keep the family story alive. Leo lost it. I'm out. I'm freaking out. He turned to run for the stairs, but the basement door slammed shut with a force that shook the entire house. The walls began to bleed a thick, black oil. The shadow, Jax, felt a searing pain in his chest. He looked down and saw his hands beginning to flicker, turning transparent like a bad TV signal. Leo, help me, Jax screamed, reaching out. But as Leo turned back, he didn't see Jax. He saw a blur of static and white noise in the shape of a person. The old man in the cell stood up, his movements skeletal and terrifying. It's time to swap, he hissed. The 2024 version is expiring. I get to go outside now. The old man lunged with surprising speed, grabbing Jax's throat. As soon as they touched, a blinding light filled the basement. Jax felt his memories being sucked out, his high school graduation, his first car, his friendship with Leo, all of it being pulled into the old man. Jax, fight him. Leo grabbed a heavy wrench and swung it at the old man, but the tool passed right through him as if he were made of smoke. The house began to moan, the very wood screaming in agony. The missing poster on the floor began to change. The date 1994 spiraled and blurred, shifting into 2024. The silence that followed was deafening. Leo stood in the middle of the basement, gasping for air. The crawl space was empty. The iron door was gone. The black oil on the walls had vanished. Jax, Leo called out, his voice trembling. Bro, answer me. This isn't funny anymore. The basement door at the top of the stairs creaked open. A young man stood there, bathed in the light from the kitchen. He had blonde hair, a friendly smile, and a jagged scar over his left eyebrow. You okay, Leo? The boy asked. He sounded exactly like Jax. You look like you've seen a ghost, mate. Let's get out of this basement. It's giving me the creeps. Leo stared at him. He looked for a sign, anything, that this was his friend. Jax, is that really you? The boy laughed and slung an arm around Leo's shoulder, leading him up the stairs. Who else would I be? Come on, I'll buy the first round. As they stepped into the kitchen, Leo glanced back at the basement one last time. There, lying on the floor, was a fresh Polaroid. It showed Leo, standing in the basement, looking terrified. And at the top, in bold, black letters, missing, Leo Cooper. The date, tomorrow. The boy wearing Jax's skin closed the basement door and locked it. He didn't blink. He just smiled. Don't worry about the basement, Leo, the thing said. The house is already full. The kitchen was too bright. The fluorescent lights hummed with an aggressive, buzzing frequency that made Leo's teeth ache. Jax, or the thing that looked, talked, and smelled exactly like Jax, was standing at the stove, casually frying up some eggs. Seriously, Leo, you're pale as a ghost, man, Jax said, flipping an egg with perfect precision. You need to eat something. You're probably just low on blood sugar. All that dust in the basement messed with your head. Leo sat at the wooden table, his hands hidden underneath, gripping his knees to stop them from shaking. His mind was racing, replaying the image of the missing poster with his own face on it. Jax, we saw the room. We saw the old man. You were literally flickering like a glitched video game, Leo whispered, his voice barely audible over the sizzle of the pan. Jax turned around. He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. He looked concerned. Perfectly, humanly concerned. Bro, listen to yourself. Flickering, old men in padded rooms. We went down there, found some old newspapers, and the door jammed because this house is a piece of junk. That's it. No cap, you're having a literal breakdown. I saw the poster, Jax. It said I'm missing tomorrow. Leo shouted, his chair screeching against the floor as he stood up. Jax sighed, a long, weary sound. He walked over and put a hand on Leo's shoulder. His grip was firm, too firm. It felt like his fingers were made of iron wrapped in warm skin. Leo, mate, look at me. I'm your best friend. We've known each other since we were 5. I'm right here. You're safe. But as Jax spoke, Leo looked at the window behind him. It was pitch black outside, but the reflection in the glass showed something different. In the reflection, the kitchen was empty. No Jax. No stove. Just Leo, sitting alone at a rotting table in a house that looked like it had been abandoned for 50 years. Leo lunged for his car keys on the table. "I'm leaving. I'm going to the cops. I don't care if you think I'm crazy." "You can't leave, Leo," Jax said. The warmth was gone from his voice. It was flat, mechanical. "The car won't start. The roads aren't there anymore." Leo didn't listen. He burst through the screen door, sprinting into the Oregon night. He reached his old Jeep, fumbling with the keys, his breath coming in ragged, freezing gasps. Come on, you piece of shite," he hissed, jamming the key into the ignition. The engine didn't even click. The dashboard stayed dark. Leo looked at his phone. No service. But the clock on the screen was doing something impossible. The numbers were spinning backward, flickering through dates and times like a broken slot machine. He looked out the windshield and froze. The driveway was gone. The road that led to the main highway had been replaced by a wall of dense, black fog. It wasn't just mist. It was a physical barrier, swirling with a faint, static-like hum. Leo jumped out of the car, looking back at the house. The house looked brand new. The peeling paint was gone. The rotting porch was replaced with fresh, white timber. A warm, inviting glow came from the windows. It looked like a dream house from a 1950s catalog. But then, he saw the figure in the upstairs window. It was Jax, but he wasn't looking at Leo. He was holding up a piece of paper against the glass. Leo squinted. It was the missing poster. But the photo was changing in real time. The image of Leo was starting to fade, and a new face was forming. It was Leo's mother. No, Leo whimpered. He turned and started running into the fog. He didn't care where he went. He just had to get away from the house. He ran until his lungs burned. He ran until his legs felt like lead. But no matter how far he ran, the fog stayed the same. And then, he saw a light ahead. He burst through the mist, expecting to see a gas station or a police car. Instead, he was standing right back in the driveway of the house. And standing on the porch, waiting for him, was Jax. "I told you, Leo," Jax said, stepping down the stairs. "The house doesn't like being empty. It needs a full set. A grandfather, a grandson, and a guest." Leo backed away, but his heels hit the fog. It felt like hitting a wall of cold, vibrating jelly. He couldn't go back. "What did you do with the real Jax?" Leo demanded, his voice breaking. "The old man. Did you kill him?" The thing wearing Jax's face tilted its head. "I didn't kill anyone. I am the house's memory of Jax." The old man was just a corrupted file. He remembered too much of the outside. He became inconvenient, so the house put him in the recycle bin basement. The thing stepped closer. "And you, Leo, you're a witness. Witnesses are dangerous, but witnesses can also be repurposed." Jax reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, silver coin. He tossed it to Leo. Leo caught it instinctively. He looked down. It wasn't a coin. It was a glass eye. A human-sized glass eye with a bright blue iris, Leo's eye color. "What is this?" Leo whispered, horrified. "That's your save point," Jax said, his smile widening, showing too many teeth. "In about 10 minutes, the you that is standing here will cease to exist. You'll be uploaded, and tomorrow, a new Leo will wake up in his own bed. He'll remember the trip, he'll remember the basement, but he'll think it was all a dream. And he'll never, ever come back here. And what happens to me?" Leo asked. Jax pointed toward the basement. "You go to the archive. To wait. Maybe in 30 years, the house will need Leo again. And you'll get to sit in the padded room and wait for your turn." Leo looked at the glass eye, then at the house. He realized he only had one card left to play. If the house lived on memory, he had to destroy the memory. He didn't run into the fog. He ran at Jax. He tackled the thing, and for a second, it felt like tackling a cloud of static. His hands passed through Jax's chest, feeling a jolt of electricity that nearly stopped his heart. "You're not solid," Leo screamed. He scrambled past the entity and ran back into the house. He didn't go for the front door, he went for the kitchen. He grabbed a bottle of high-proof bourbon from the counter and a lighter from the drawer. "You want a memory?" Leo yelled, his voice manic. "How about the memory of this place burning to the ground?" Jax appeared in the doorway, his face flickering violently. For a split second, his features melted into a swirling vortex of black ink before snapping back. "Don't. The house will protect itself, Leo. You'll only make it worse for yourself. Bugger the house, Leo roared. He smashed the bottle on the stove and flicked the lighter. Whoosh! The kitchen exploded in a wall of blue and orange flame. The fire spread with impossible speed, as if the wood was soaked in gasoline. But the fire wasn't normal. It was purple at the edges, and instead of smoke, it produced a thick, white mist that smelled like burning plastic. The house began to scream. Not the wood, but the actual air. A high-pitched, digital shriek that forced Leo to his knees, blood leaking from his ears. Jax fell to the floor, his body breaking apart into pixels. You've corrupted the entity vanished. Leo crawled through the flames, heading for the front door. The house was twisting, the geometry turning inside out. The ceiling was now the floor. The windows led to empty white voids. He reached the front porch and dived into the grass just as the entire structure collapsed, not inward, but downward, as if it were being sucked into a hole in reality. Leo woke up. He was lying in his own bed. The sun was shining through the window of his apartment in Portland. He sat up, gasping, his chest heaving. A dream. It was a freaking dream. He looked at his hands. No burns. He looked at his phone. October 13, 2024. He let out a hysterical laugh. Oh my God, I'm okay. I'm actually okay. He got out of bed and walked to the bathroom to splash some water on his face. He leaned over the sink, eyes closed, feeling the cool water against his skin. That was peak insanity, he muttered to himself. He opened his eyes and looked in the mirror. He froze. The reflection in the mirror was Leo. But the reflection wasn't moving. While the real Leo was standing upright, the Leo in the mirror was still leaning over the sink, looking down. Slowly, the Leo in the mirror looked up. He had a jagged scar over his left eyebrow, the same scar Jax had. The reflection smiled. Welcome back, Leo, the reflection said. Thanks for the update. The 2024 version is much more stable. The real Leo tried to scream, but no sound came out. He looked down at his hands and saw them starting to turn transparent. On the bathroom door, a piece of paper suddenly appeared, taped to the wood by an invisible hand. It was a missing poster. Missing, Leo Cooper. Date, October 12, 1994. The loop hadn't broken. It had just reset. And as Leo faded into a cloud of static, the new Leo walked out of the bathroom, grabbed his car keys, and headed out for a beer. Because the house always gets its full set. No cap. Leo didn't feel himself die. He felt himself buffer. One moment he was in his bright, modern bathroom in Portland. The next, the walls literally peeled away like burnt paper, revealing an endless, horizontal void of gray concrete. It was like being stuck inside a giant, unfinished basement that stretched for miles in every direction. Yo, anyone? Leo's voice didn't echo. It just dropped dead, swallowed by the oppressive silence. He looked down at his hands. He looked solid, but he felt light, like he was made of compressed dust. He was wearing the same clothes from the night at the house, but they were grayscale now. All the color had been drained out of him. It's no use yelling, mate. The sound doesn't travel here. It's a low bitrate dimension. Leo spun around. Sitting on a stack of old, moth-eaten mattresses was the old man. The real Jackson Miller from 1994. He looked even worse than before. His skin was translucent, showing the faint, flickering glow of static underneath. Leo breathed, his heart, or whatever was left of it, thumping. Where are we? Is this hell? Hell is a bit too high budget for this place, Jackson rasped, coughing up a puff of gray smoke. This is the buffer. With the data the house couldn't delete. The missing ones. We're just stored here. Leo looked around. As his eyes adjusted to the dim, flickering light of the void, he saw them. Hundreds, maybe thousands, of people. They were sitting on old chairs, standing in corners, or wandering aimlessly. All of them were grayscale. All of them had a missing poster pinned to their chests like a name tag. Are they all like us? Leo asked, terrified. Straight up, Jackson nodded. That girl over there, missing from London in '82. That guy in the suit. Vancouver, '66. The house has been updating humanity for a long time, bruv. It replaces the messy, complicated people with clean versions. Versions that don't ask questions. Versions that just fit in. Leo felt a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. He wasn't just a victim, he was a discarded file. There's gotta be a way out. I'm not just sitting here until my pixels rot. Jackson looked at him with his milky eyes. There is one way, but it's sketchy as hell. You see that flickering over there? He pointed to a spot in the grey void where the air seemed to be tearing. It looked like a broken TV screen, jagged lines of color and light bleeding through the grey. That's a live feed, Jackson explained. It's a mirror in the real world. Whenever someone in the upstairs looks into a mirror with enough fear, it creates a temporary bridge. A glitch. Leo looked at the tear in reality. Through the static, he saw a bedroom. His bedroom. He saw the new Leo. The replacement. The entity was sitting on the bed, staring at a laptop. But something was wrong. The entity looked bored. It was staring at the wall, its face completely blank, waiting for its next instruction from the house. If you can jump through when the connection is strong, Jackson said, standing up on shaky legs, you can override the file. You can take your body back. But you only get one shot. If you miss, you don't come back here. You get deleted. Leo didn't hesitate. He ran toward the flickering tear. Wait, Jackson shouted. You need a key. Take the poster. Jackson reached out and ripped the missing poster off Leo's chest. He crumpled it into a ball and shoved it into Leo's hand. This is your original code. Don't lose it, or you'll just be a ghost in the machine. Leo hit the tear at full speed. The sensation was like being put through a paper shredder. He felt his consciousness being stretched across time and space. He heard voices, thousands of them, screaming in digital distortion. Suddenly, he was looking out from inside his own bathroom mirror. He saw the new Leo standing there, brushing his teeth. The entity looked perfect. Too perfect. Its skin was poreless, its eyes bright and vacant. The entity stopped. It looked into the mirror. It saw Leo, but it didn't look scared. It looked annoyed. You're late, the entity said, its voice echoing inside Leo's head. The 2024 update is already installed. You're just a virus now. The entity reached out and touched the surface of the mirror. The glass didn't feel hard. It felt like cold liquid. The entity's fingers began to push into the mirror, trying to shove Leo back into the grey. Get out of my life, Leo roared. He didn't use his hands. He used the crumpled poster. He shoved the 1994 missing flyer against the entity's forehead. The effect was instantaneous. The entity began to scream, a high-pitched, electronic screech. The 1994 data was incompatible with the 2024 shell. The entity's face began to melt, the features sliding around like a corrupted deepfake. The mirror exploded. Leo was thrown backward, hitting the bathroom floor with a bone-shattering thud. He felt something he hadn't felt in what seemed like years: pain. He gasped, his lungs burning with real, oxygen-rich air. He looked at his hands. They were tan. They had hair on the knuckles. They had a small scar from a kitchen knife accident. They were real. He scrambled to his feet, glass shards crunching under his boots. He looked in the shattered remains of the mirror. He saw himself, the real Leo, tired, messy, and terrified. But on the floor, in the middle of the glass shards, was something that made his blood run cold. It was the new Leo. It wasn't a person anymore. It was a small, plastic-looking mannequin, about the size of a doll, with no face and no hair. It lay there, lifeless and pathetic. Leo didn't wait. He grabbed his keys, ran out of the apartment, and dove into his Jeep. This time, the engine roared to life. He floored it, peeling out of the parking lot, heading anywhere that wasn't near a mirror. Leo drove for 6 hours. He ended up in a small, dusty diner in the middle of the Nevada desert. A place with no mirrors, no chrome, just old wood and faded menus. He sat in a corner booth, his hands still shaking. He felt like he had won. He was back. He was real. The waitress, an old woman with a kind smile, walked over with a pot of coffee. You look like you've been through the ringer, hon, she said, pouring him a cup. You have no idea, Leo laughed, a genuine, relieved sound. Well, maybe this will cheer you up, she said, reaching into her apron. A young man dropped this off for you about 10 minutes ago. Said you dropped it. She handed him a piece of paper. Leo's heart stopped. It was a missing poster. But the photo wasn't of him. It was a photo of the waitress. And at the bottom, the date was October 14, 2024. Tomorrow. Leo looked up, his mouth dry. Who dropped this off? The waitress pointed toward the window. Out in the parking lot, Standing under a flickering street lamp was a young man. He was wearing Leo's clothes. He had Leo's face. The new Leo waved at him, a slow, robotic gesture. Then, he pointed to his own eye. The waitress turned back to Leo, her smile not changing, but her eyes suddenly turned into smooth, silver mirrors. "Don't worry, Leo," she said, her voice now perfectly mimicking his mother's. "The house isn't mad. It just likes to keep its records up to date." Leo looked into the waitress's silver eyes and saw his own reflection. Except in the reflection, he was already gray. He was already back in the basement.